What's going on, everybody? It's me, your lonely host, Izaak. As you can see, I am all alone today. Rodolfo and my producer Austin are not here, but they're not here for a good reason. And because, they're rethinking their lives, their realities, and that's kind of what this episode is going to be about. It's just kind of, what the fuck are you doing with your life? And I've been asking myself that question lately, and I think in a sense we all have been asking ourselves that question, like with everything going on, not just COVID, the presidency. I just feel as if humanity as a whole is going through this like self-realization of like, what the fuck are we doing here? And usually like to start the show by recommending a few things, good content that will inspire you, that will hopefully incite you not just to feel something, but to motivate you to do something. You know what I mean? And what I want to recommend today is a band. It's an album, really. They're called The War on Drugs, and the album is called Lost in a Dream. And I feel like this album goes perfectly, not just with this podcast episode, but with the pensive state of being that I feel that the world is in lately. And this is one of the songs that I love by them. It's called Red Eyes. And again, this is an album, Lost in a Dream, and you gotta fucking bump this album. I feel like when I listen to this album, I feel like I am in an ocean of anxiety, right? But it makes the anxiety bearable, and my favorite ways to listen to this album is just to lay down and just like let it wash over me, as I feel like all the elements in this album they just kind of blend in with each other, and none of them are too abrasive to yourself, and I feel like that's what makes this album beautiful, and what makes it an album to just kind of think about your life, and if you don't like this kind of music, just try it out, you know what I mean? But here it is. Here's a little taste. Ooh, I almost want to leave that whole song playing. That song is called Red Eyes, and it's I think it's my favorite song in the album, to be honest. But the album as a whole, I feel, is like a beautiful piece in and of itself. And like I'm telling you guys, we're trying to recommend things that we think are inspiring, but at the same time motivate you to create, motivate you to do something. And I feel this album hits I guess today's mood, Rodolfo's mood, Austin's mood, my mood, like right on the head, and it just kind of makes you think about yourself, or at least if you go in it with that intent, I feel like the emotional tones that the album brings up really does make you question your life and your reality, and that's kind of pretty much the topic of today, right? Is what are you doing with your life? But deeper and more, I guess, complex is like, what do you value in life? I feel as if this is honestly how I feel. I feel like whoever is in charge of this reality, right? As a whole, as humans as a whole, we create reality that we have to participate. The reality before us is created by us. Right? So my feeling is that the people in charge, right? And I'm not talking about some like Illuminati crazy stuff. I'm talking about the people in charge, the people that control the things we see, the content we consume, or the tastemakers of the world, right? I feel as if a long time ago, it was decided that we would run in a capitalist Western type of world, right? Which is consume, and succeed. Ooh, say that 3 times. So when I think about how we are all trying to navigate to be better people, I think we have, in a way, entrapped ourselves, because I don't remember ever being in the meeting where reality for me was set, right? I don't remember just all these people being like, hey, Izaak, are you okay with this is exactly how you had to live your life in order to be successful? Because if I wasn't, I mean, I'd be like, nah, man, that's not the kind of shit that I'm down for, the things that I value. Yeah, we all seem to be trapped in this participation cycle that we cannot escape, you know? And I think that really is what attributes to like the sadness in our lives, the anxieties that we have. Because how do you measure success, right? In a, like, I guess online, you measure success by your followers, your likes. How epic is your highlight reel, right? Your Instagram, Facebook, whatever, like, excuse me, like whatever you post on there, you know, it really sets the precedence to other people, like what your life is like. And then and just in the world in general, you know, how do you measure success in that way is like what the material things that you can acquire, right? In terms of income, living situation, and all these things, which all those things are awesome to have. But what seems, I guess, to be the trend is how much money can you make? You know, like we're like hoarders, you know, like how much can you have? And I think as we all kind of live out that reality and that kind of way of being, we are, in a sense, destroying aspects of ourselves that we never ever even think to question, or that in our type of society, in our type of reality, ever really comes up. You know, like if you're feeling weird or you know, have like really bad anxieties, right? And I actually, because of that, I have like an eating disorder and all that shit. It's fine, whatever. But our society, or I guess what we choose to participate in, is like tells you, you know, there's something wrong with you. Like take pills, take meds, or if you go to like therapy, you know, to try to figure out what's wrong with you, people kind of look at it negatively, you know. And I've been thinking a lot about that lately, because my life is like completely upside down, right? When I was younger, I joined the military, and I went into this accumulation state of being, and I've never been happier, you know. Like I was successful by every means that I have just kind of been explaining and talking about, but I just found myself to be like utterly miserable, utterly sad, doing a lot of drugs, and a lot of things to kind of take the edge off, to kind of like help me or make me forget the things that I'm really going through, you know. And that's why that's kind of what I wanted to, I guess that is what I'm talking about right now. But that's kind of what my buddy, my co-host Rodolfo is going through. You know, he came upon just this big, I guess, intersection in his life where he kind of has to decide where his life is going, you know. And the reason I guess I want to talk about that is because I'm just, as somebody who listens to this podcast, you know, like I really appreciate you. And I've said it before, you know, like if there's something that you could be doing to better yourself right now, if there's something that you've always wanted to like get started and you're just sitting there wasting your time listening to this podcast, turn this shit off and go do that, you know. I think we're valuing very selfish things as of late, you know, and it almost feels like it's been spun around, right? So you have like all these biohacking junkies, or like what's the word? What are they called? The self-help junkies, you know, and I'm guilty of being one of those people where I'm just trying to like optimize my life. You know, I've been intermittent fasting since I was like 18 years old, or like, I get up, I take cold showers, you just gotta pick yourself up by the by your bootstraps, and you just gotta go, man, you just gotta do it. You gotta have discipline. Like, all these fucking forms of like self-help, they all kind of seem to be geared towards accumulation and consumption, and how you can accumulate and consume more, and how, I guess, in a sense, that is what signifies power, that is what signifies success, that is what signifies happiness, right? And to an extent, those things are real and those things are true. But I find myself almost taking a step back from that, right? Because although all those things are really cool, like, hey, I microdose and it makes me super creative, and like I don't know, I just see like a lot of self-motivation things, and like, this is how I made my first million, and I guess as I'm thinking about it, I'm just like, where's like, what do these people really value, right? Because it seems very apparent, like, money, freedom, obviously, and the consumption of things, to live, like, I guess, in a sense, in an excess, right? And we've all been in a way, I feel like, tricked into thinking that is what equates happiness. And it's kind of like the school system, right? Like, they know what everybody needs to be successful, but I don't think ever once in high school or I guess as I'm growing up, I was ever asked to think deeply about what I valued. It's always like your parents' values, your church's values, school values, the workforce values, right? That's what college is. And it's just to like feed this big machine, So I guess what I wanted to talk about is that, just values, what do you value? And I think it's important to really, I guess, you guys, by the way, I am so nervous because I'm doing the podcast by myself, and I just feel like I'm just crazily rambling shit off. But a big part of my values, I guess, is doing things I'm uncomfortable with, But I guess, so what I ended up doing was I broke down my life, into the things that I value, because I find myself getting really stressed out, getting really anxious, like if I don't put out a podcast episode, if I don't do a YouTube video, if if I'm not meeting these like standards, like my income, my income is super low right now because I am doing this podcast, so I like stopped doing a lot of jobs. But at the same time, I went into this creative field of being a videographer, and I got caught up in the wave of like what you should value as a videographer, right? Which is like making movies, getting higher productions, doing commercials, getting paid a lot of money. At one point I was making really good money, but then I realized like I'm miserable doing this shit. Even though it's like in a creative field and the things that I love, it almost feels like as soon as you start getting good at something, people around you or people in these industries will always tell you like, this is what you need to do more and be more successful, and at least for me, why I started doing videos is because I just really appreciated the art form, the passion of it, and it's really easy to get swept up into this big I guess this machine or this reality that I'm talking about, right? So again, what I did is I broke down like, what is it that I truly value in my life, right? Not what I need to do to survive, not what I think my family needs me to do, or my lady or her family, it's like, what do I value? And am I living my life by those values? That's like super important and super crucial. And even though it sounds so simple, right? And it sounds like, yeah, that's fucking obvious. Like, it wasn't obvious to me, like, I feel like I'm in this rat race. Even though I'm doing creative things, I'm trying to be like, number one, be successful, get as many downloads as I can, like all this dumb shit. And it's been stressing me the fuck out lately, and it stressed poor Rudy out. And in a sense, my producer Austin out. So in their own very separate ways, right? So the things that I value. I know I've been keep saying, like, I wrote it down. So here's the things that I value is creativity, family, freedom, and self-expression. So those are the things that I value most in life. And I just kind of realized, like, the people that are like genuinely happy, you know, like not like just overly successful, but like genuinely happy, they live life by their values first and foremost, and then their goals just kind of seem to like fall into place, you know. And I cannot speak as to my goals falling into place because I feel like I have a very goal-oriented life up to, I would say, last November, you know. And even though all my goals deal with like becoming a free human, having like a free, I guess just being free of like debt, what I guess expectations that people have put on me, you know. I've always been wanting to free myself of that, and I've always thought, you know, like when I do that I will be happy. And then I've always wanted to have enough money to execute the things that I guess in my head dream about, right? But then what I realized was, like, as I was doing and accomplishing those things, I wasn't getting any happier. And in fact, I was actually, I guess in a sense, becoming more depressed. But then when I objectively look at those moments in my life, you know, I see that even though I was in a sense living by some of these values that I named, I was always caught up in like that next moment, you know, like, okay, now I accomplished this, now I need to go here. And I never really stop and take the time to like breathe and just appreciate things for what they are, right? So now I've had a very, I guess, happy like 2 months, right? Because I decided, although I'm fucking scared of it, I don't want to do the type of videography that I'm doing, in the sense of like getting paid money to do projects that I'm not passionate about, you know? So like, and that goes in with freedom, you know, creativity and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm taking a big pay cut, but I still have other means that I make money, and that's okay, you know? And what was really hard about that is that I had to start saying no to people. I'm really bad at saying no, especially in the creative field, because again, one of my values is creativity, and getting to a place where I feel confident about my own creativity has been extremely difficult. That's honestly one of the biggest hurdles that I've had to maneuver over, because literally like my whole life has been geared around being a respectable person in society, right? I'm an immigrant. My mom came here to the United States with me when I was 9 years old. She had $300 in her pocket, and that was that. You know, we showed up here, and it was super scary. You know, if there were times where we were homeless, my mom had like 3 jobs, like just crazy shit. And she was 6 months pregnant with my little sister. So it's been like a roller coaster ride. So I guess my values were formed when my mom got with my stepdad, because like he's Hispanic, but he hates being a Hispanic person, and he lived here in the 70s and 80s when like there was like almost no Mexicans up north. So his thing is like, you know, you got to assimilate to this culture, to this white shit, and the values is like, go to college, get a good job, you know, like you are happy once a month when you go on vacation, you know, that's when you let loose, and you let loose on the weekends, and the rest of the time you have to work, and you have to be miserable, and you have to make your family proud. And you know, for a big part, that's one of the reasons I joined the military. I always knew I would have job security. I always knew that I would be able to defend myself. You know, I've always been kind of like a scaredy cat. Another reason why I've always done martial arts, you know. And like, I guess executing that, you know, made me realize I hated all of that. And leaving that world that my life has been geared towards, and that has been instilling me, has been the scariest thing. And leaving that world to be a creative person. You know, I never held a camera till 2015, bro. That's 5 years ago. And to think that in 5 years I would be able to make a living doing this thing that I'm passionate about, that I just want to be seen as a creative person, like an artist and shit, has been the biggest source of insecurity ever to me, you know? So I guess bringing it back, that's the reason that even though I was in a creative field, even though I was doing the things that I guess would set me free, or I saw as freedom, in a sense, is the reason that I was trapped, you know, because of my own insecurities of, I guess, wanting to be a creative, because it is one of the things I value. And most of us do live our life by our values to an extent, you know, but I feel like that's a very little extent. And I guess what I want you guys to get from this podcast is that, to maybe hopefully reevaluate your life in the sense of like, are you living by your values? You know, like your exact values. Because I think since I started doing that, it feels like a huge weight has been lifted off my shoulders, you know, and everything in my life now is geared towards my family, my freedom, my creativity, and my curiosity, you know, and those things help me express. I guess all those things are the way that I now express myself. And now I'm not trying to say like goals or orientation is bad, but I guess what I started doing now is just like really enjoying being here in the moment, because everything around me aligns with my values. You know, that shit is not easy to get to a spot like that, right? And it sounds so simple. Ooh, simple, fool. It sounds so simple when you lay it out, you know? Yeah, live life by your values. Yeah, of course, But how do you actually do that, you know? And how do you get to a spot where you feel comfortable doing that? And I guess that's why I have such a quarrel with all this self-improvement bullshit, because I love all that stuff. Don't get me wrong, you know? But I think what we have negated and forgotten, and that's a crucial step to getting to the shit that you value, is like, do you know who you are, right? And not just do you know who you are, but do you know how to fix the things that are actually wrong with you, right? Like an example, like I said earlier, you know, like I have an eating disorder. Like it's fine admitting it now, but you know, I kept these like crazy binges, you know, like my weight is so fluctuating on my terrible diet, because I'm actually pretty healthy for a person, but there's these moments that I just have like these anxious like breakdowns, right? And I just started like eating food, dude. And most people don't know when I'm binging, but or like I'll binge in front of my friends, right? So we'll be like hanging out or whatever, and I'm like, yo, let's go get this kind of fucking food, and we get like all these burgers and all these things, whatever nasty food, right? But in my head as I'm eating, I'm already thinking like, what am I gonna eat next after I ditch these fools, you know? And it's like it's created huge problems in my life, right? So then I go to the self-help shit, right? Like intermittent fast, have discipline, you know, wake up at 4 a.m., do 400 deadlifts, you know, read self-help books, you know, read 100 books a year, you know, all this shit. And I'm like, yeah. But I still never fix my eating disorder. You know, I'm just trying to put a little band-aid on the symptom, right? And that's what I mean. Do you really know who you are? Because in order for me to like have figured out, and why I'm okay speaking about having an eating disorder, right, was because like I had to do like all this work that in my mind just seems gay. You know, as a guy, you're like, man, fuck therapy, that shit's gay, ain't nothing wrong with me, I'll just fix it being a fucking man, you know, men don't tell their emotions and all this shit and whatever, blah blah blah. So in order for me to get to know myself better, to have and start helping this eating disorder symptom, like I had to figure out where those things originated, right? And the truth is, you know, that for a lot of us, who we are and the problems that we have as adults are created during childhood, you know, because you grew up in a fucked up thing, your parents, whatever, you know, everybody has issues, nobody's scot-free. And what I see that most people don't do is they don't like looking back because those things are painful, man. Like when I figured out where like this whole eating disorder shit come from, like, bro, I was bawling, like booger snot bubbles coming out my nose, because I had to, like, I guess, rekindle a relationship with like my little kid self. There's like that kid that is just like, shoved down, you fucking pussy, don't ever come back out, and I'm just like this fucking whatever. So I had to go back and hang out with that person, and it just like, I have an eating disorder because when I was a younger kid, food was hard to get, right? And in Mexico especially, and when we moved to the United States, my mom often would not be, I would never even see my mom, and the only things that would give me comfort was food, right? It would make me feel good because I could eat as much as I wanted, and that was like something that I was missing in my life, that was like before it like depended on survival, and it also gave me a sense of affirmation, because I was like, my parents, or my mom at the time, wasn't there or able to be there for me because she was trying to like put food on the table, right, and give us a good life. So then that turned into when my mom moved in with my stepdad and shit, and he was like terrible, like I was ignored in a different way, but also like tormented in a different way. And again, the only thing that would bring me satisfaction was food. So I created this like love-hate relationship with food, right? And as I'm growing into my teenage years, obviously I'm a fat fuck. I got titties, and I want girls to like me. So now I'm like, well, I gotta lose weight. So then I start really unhealthily trying to do that. And I was like, I don't ever want to say I was bulimic, because I don't think I ever made myself throw up, but, well, actually I used to when I was younger, now that I think about it. But I would go on these long periods of like starvation, and I created this like love-hate relationship with food. And ultimately, I'm not going to lead you guys down my whole fucking emotional path, but that's how, I developed this eating disorder and this addiction to food, and not being able to talk about it was also super harmful for me, and I think that's just like a small example of a step on like how do you get to know yourself. When you come to a realization of like, yo, I gotta change my life, I have to do something, you're so set in your ways, you're so set in all of these, you've created all these pathways, right? And that's what you're always going to want to revert to, because that's what's safe, that's what's comfortable. But if you find yourself like unhappy, depressed, and all these things, and then you're like, you know what, I'm going to start going to the gym, I'm going to start doing all these things, like, my friend, you are trying to put a band-aid on something that goes much deeper than that. I guess the first step before you turn into like a self-help junkie or like a fucking biohacker motard, before you do that, I guess I would say maybe you should try to figure out where your symptoms and what's wrong with you comes from. Where does that come from? And also you have to think about, are you leading the life that you want to lead, or are you bound by the shackles of expectations of the people that love you around you? And you got to be honest with yourself. And from there, it's up to you to choose like what path you want to take. I know I'm talking shit about all this like self-improvement stuff, but I think that's all fine and dandy once you figure out yourself. Who cares about some motherfucker that read 100 books in a year? If that's not you, if you don't like reading, then don't fucking read. Don't take that and be like, this is why my life sucks. Or if you see some fucking Instagram girl like next to a mountain fucking showing her ass with her 1 million likes, what if you don't even fucking like hiking, but yet that's like bombarding you and affecting the way that you are, So, take everybody else's, the outside world as a grain of salt. I guess that is what I'm trying to say, and turn inward. Like, what is it that you think will make you happy? You know, what is it that thing? What are your values? You know, do you even know that shit? And I guess lastly, like what I want to say is that you're probably gonna fail a lot if you listen to my words of advice, right? But in failing, you find the things that you are not. So I'll give you guys an example. And these long ass rambles. Me and my best friend, my brother Alec. You know, that's why I don't call him my best friend. He's my brother, bro. He's like my other half. We got out of the military and we're like, let's travel the world in a bus. And let's just see shit. Let's go into the jungles. Let's do all this crazy shit. Yo, we saved up for a bus. You know, we worked our asses off. We went on a national parks tour in the US just to keep it happy. And it was hella fun. But 8 months in, we realized like, yo, this shit sucks. This is not who I am. You know what I mean? Like you see like these hippies smelling like shit, like super happy on the road, you know, like no possessions, like no nothing. That's cool, homie, for you, you know, and I'm a very spiritual person, so I thought that was what I had to go towards in order to actualize my true self, right? And I just realized like, yo, I don't want to be a dirty hippie. I don't want to be living on the road, and I don't want to be sleeping in Walmart parking lots on the way to the next fucking awesome destination, you know? And Alex a workout freak, you know? He's like, I'm going crazy without weights, you know, even though we had a bunch of gym shit, you know? And by the end of the 8 months, we had to come to the realization like, hey, fuck this, you know? But it also felt like a loss. Like we lost. You know, we were supposed to travel the world. We were supposed to see the world. And you just failed at it. All your friends, all your family that you told you were going to leave, they're going to be like, you didn't do it. But you know what? We had this beautiful moment. We had this beautiful time of self-reflection and awareness. And we learned what we were not, you know. And now Alec lives in New York with his beautiful girlfriend, a good friend of mine. And they're living their best lives. You know, he works at this gym for like famous celebrity people. Makes like his life is on its way to what it's supposed to be, right? But that's because he found out what he was not. And same with me, you know, like I had this idea of like working on sets and being this filmmaker super deep and all this stuff, and then I actually start doing those kind of jobs, right? And I'm not even kidding, dude. Like I'm flying to like Trinidad, like doing real documentary shit, you know, like the stuff that you hear about like adventurers talk about, right? And then I get flown out to Philadelphia and do another thing, and I'm just feeling like, dude, my life is so rewarded. Like this is awesome. But then I start realizing like, oh, these people are not the type of people I want to be around. You know, it's like everything is, I guess, in a way like Hollywood, right? Not that I really made it into Hollywood, but I made it enough to realize like, fuck this shit. And this is very recent, my friends, right? And as my job started picking up, I did another documentary recently, which is what allowed me to take this time off. And I just started getting more and more work and realizing like, yo, I don't want to be in this community. I don't want to be part of this, you know, like I thought I did, and I'm glad I executed it. But now I know that I don't want that, you know, and it sucks because I'm 29 and I'm like, oh shit, and I got a career change again. What do I love? What do I value? And I guess to an extent, those things that I've mentioned, they could have been executed better, because if I had known more about like learning and living my life by my values instead of being so goal oriented and so motarded, that's motivationally retarded, about becoming like this self-improving, like fucking mystical fucking guru guy, you know? Like I'm not gonna lie to you guys, at one point I didn't want to be like a fucking guru, and I wanted to take people on these psychedelic journeys and do all these things to like make people realize they have a soul and a spirit, and then actually being ingrained in that, in those worlds. And I just realized like, yo man, these guys are full of shit, a lot of them, you know. Not everybody, but there's definitely like a lot of people that just recite the Bhagavad Gita to get some puss, or it's just like wear a lot of, put your hair in a fucking man bun and just start like, I'm a vegan, that's the first thing you say, just stuff like that. And I just, and I realized, like I gotta make my own lane, and in order to do that, just gotta live my life by my values, not anybody else's. And that's really hard, and I'm still struggling to do that. And I really appreciate whoever the fuck listened to this long of a rant about all those things. And I hope if any of that stuff like resonated with you, I hope that you start doing the shit that you want to do, and it's not like quit your job right now, quit your job tomorrow, like be methodical about it, but slowly start weaving the things that you value into your everyday life, so if you're working a job that you hate but you make a lot of money, start saving up for something else. That's kind of what I'm doing right now. I'm fucking, in a sense, I'm busting my ass. I'm doing these things that I don't necessarily like, but I know that it's because of my values and the things that I value that I'm doing those things. So that doesn't mean that you will not have resistance. It just means that the things that become resistance are not your every single working hour, and I mean like doing a shitty job to save up money. Like right now I do an awesome job for like not as much money, but it like puts food on the table, it lets me continue this lifestyle, and I love it. What I do. And what I'm not enjoying is like remodeling. Actually, I'm enjoying remodeling the house, but what I'm not enjoying is being in all this debt and all this stuff. But like for the most part, my life is been being lived through my values, and I've been really appreciating it, and I've just been loving being able to be like in every single moment, and I guess I gotta stop ranting, you guys. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. My name is Izaak. Next week we'll be back with Rodolfo. I hope I did okay for my first solo episode. I'm like I said, this whole time I've been just extremely nervous. I'm camera shy, so I decided to record this because lately the episodes have been just audio, and I'm just trying to push myself to put myself out there, and also to be more eloquent with my words. But yeah, so I'll catch you guys next week, and I love all you motherfuckers.